because two sides were organizing the inauguration. So no, for me, I'm not surprised that things went haywire, and in fact, I got vindicated when I made several calls for the inaugural committee, especially for the incoming, to come and sit on my platform, State of the Nation. They turned me down, and some of the things that we speculated. In journalism, speculation has at least 40% of treason, right? So at the end of the day, they've come out now post inauguration, admitting to some of these errors and blaming one another, calling names and stuff like that.
Blame trading, sort of.
Yes. So, in my opinion, there was at some point in time that no cooperation between the two. I don't know where they saw one another as rivals. I don't know, but everybody agrees that the planning was actually poor. And if I should just mention on what happened yesterday, it was left in one person's hand.
Okay.
Right? So this one, figuratively, the good would not be let loose.
Yeah.
Would not be let loose. This and you trusted it. The country or those who participated, whether incoming or outgoing, they might have learned some lesson like Oscar said. And I was coming in while driving. I was listening to my friend and brother Tatus. And yes, so they might have learned some lesson. If it had repeated on yesterday, then that means something was the problem. Okay. The fact that they fitted in their plan, that means there was problem during the inauguration, because there are two sides, as I said, but this time, unlike the inauguration, one side was organizing. So that's how I see it.
So I hope going forward, we will learn from that, and when we're putting these kinds of activities or establishing committees or stuff, we can make sure that we have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. So
do we expect the next inauguration to be much better than this? Because if you or I saying that the first inauguration of Ambassador Boakai was much better because it was on one side, do we expect it to be much better?
Inauguration,
you're talking about State of the Nation address. Sorry.
Well,
let's
we cannot predict the future, because if the next State of the Nation address will be next year in January, and all we can hope for is that there should be improvement.
Yeah, room for improvement.
Yeah, room for improvement. Like Chris said, along the way people learn, and now that we are talking about these issues, like the last time we came here, we talked about on the day of the inauguration, we have a few hours to talk about the inauguration with Vavely on the same Super Money show. And we were able to outline some of compare the U.S. state in the inauguration with that of Liberia and other countries around the world, and what they normally do, the traditional aspect of the program. Now, what we realize from the inaugural program, based on how we critique the inaugural program, and then the United Party government, the government was able to listen. That's why they took cue from the criticism.
Your constructive
Besides,
criticism.
even the Super Money show we had, social media was inundated with mixed reactions, and most of the mixed reactions were basically about the inaugural committee not performing up to the task, right? And I think Auntie Mieta family was on the radio trying to defend herself.
Yeah.
The other side, I just saw a post from a news alert from one new online news, and Julie Annie is also issuing statement to clarify her own side. So, like Chris said, everybody will be saying their own, but the fight is that something bad went on, and there's a need for correction. So, there where the media role comes in. The essence of journalism is to set the agenda and to critique the activities of the state. So, for example, if the media were silent on these issues, how will the government take cue from the errors they made? So, at times when we are critical of issues, the government of the day, and they try to some elements of the government of the day, and they try to say, oh, those guys are against the regime.
That's when your
Yes.
unprofessionalism
But this
comes
is our
in.
work. This is our work as journalists. This is what we have devoted our life to be able to set a better agenda for the country. Because, mind you, when things go wrong, bulk of the blames come on the media. And I tell journalists that yes, we are to be blamed because we say we are agenda and pace sectors. So if you, for example, people are following political news every time, people got interest, vast of the population got interest in politics. It is because the way we run our radio shows, our newspapers, what we put in our papers, what the people are reading.
Okay,
Let me tell you,
Titus,
I don't.
okay.
So
let's
to respond to your
yeah,
question,
okay, fine.
I don't want to believe that with the caliber of legislators we have within the 55th legislature, I'm not sure they will want to subscribe to the common parlance that says when you praise the white chicken, it jumps in the red oil. The fight that they've been able to put together a well-organized a ceremony for the president, first state of the nation. No one wants to retrogress. People always want to make rooms for improvement. So I am certain that the next state of the nation address for President Ambassador Joseph Human Boyka is going to be even much more better than what we saw.
I tend to go with you, Oscar, especially so when there are clear signs that the organizers listen, the government listen. There are clear signs, even when it comes to the delivery of the state of the nation, the length and all of that. It was such a great day. So let's go now to this big elephant, because I know yesterday the state of the nation was a whole elephant. We were looking at many things, were embedded in that. Such things like we'll be the first to take the drug test. We'll lead by example. There was this argument about you said you left this, no, not true, you left this amount and the other amount. Let's start off with you, Chris. In the SONA itself, what were the key issues that you pick out, like some of the things I'm talking about this morning?
Okay, so I'm in a chat room and we've managed to synchronize the 44-minute speech into at least 10, not 10, sorry, to at least 15 talking points, right?
Okay.
So in my view, the president set the pace, and he didn't on this drug issue, right? It's a national emergency, as he termed it yesterday. And it is my hope that everyone will have to follow, especially his preferments. And if a leader comes out and gives himself or herself to serve as the guinea pig for this experiment to get rid of narcotics, it makes me to believe that I don't think any of his preferment will want to stay back, right? So he said, as a mark of seriousness in fighting drug addiction in this country, me and my vice president, we have viewed ourselves for drug tests. This is something that we made topical. It's been intellectual. In the last administration, before last administration, the other one, everybody said, well, come on, bring drug tests, we'll go for it. So what I expected to have heard from the president was to set a date for the drug test, right? Set a date. Because availing yourself, mind you now, we heard once upon a time Representative Gray availing himself for drug tests. You can give himself honorable, you can give himself for drug tests, but there are no drug tests conducted at all. So to add seriousness to this national cause, I expected the president to have a date set that my vice president and I will move to this section to conduct or to avail ourselves or subject ourselves to drug tests. And by that, and if you read the speech, he said, and I encourage. In my opinion, it shouldn't be an encouragement. It should be mandatory.
A policy.
Yeah, a policy. Yeah. If you want to, it falls on a rule of law, right? If you want to serve, and the fact that I refer to Liberia as the last stopping point, if you want to serve under my administration, it is not a matter of option. When I'm leaving, you have to. It's like going to sign for, sorry to say this, a book of condolence. All the cabinet ministers will be there, right? They sign right after you. So set a date, go and subject yourself to the drug test, and let's see who will stay away. Staying away itself speaks volume.
Yeah, somebody says this sounds like a policy prescription. So are we going to tie some actions to, for example, people still have to go for confirmation hearing? Could we say that blood test or rather drug test result will be the basis to confirm you? Could we make that a condition? Because the point is, if you make it optional, like you said, I could decide whether to go or not to go.
But this is where the president, like Chris said, this is where the president, for me, for now, it is not a policy. It becomes a policy when the president takes the lead. And how does he take the lead? He takes the lead, for example, like yesterday, before doing his coming up with his annual message, he has nominated a couple of officials and some are pending confirmation. Now, in that speech, it should have been incited that those who have been nominated in my cabinet, as of today's date, these people will be subjected to drug tests. And the Minister of Health is a chair for the drug committee. The Minister of Health should be able to lay down the procedures, how they are going to do it. Because I am concerned, where am I going to do the drug test, for example, if I'm an official of government? Where is the hospital? Who is in charge? Like, you do it like the COVID test. The COVID test became mandatory, especially for people who were traveling.
Yeah.
If you were leaving Liberia, you have to do the COVID test. I did a COVID test. Though I was not traveling at that time, but at times, when you're ready to travel, you don't have the certificate, they deny you from traveling. So if we should make it a policy, that's how the president should proceed. But then the way it was delivered, it appears like a political charade that the president and his men just want to make news out of it, right? Because mind you, the opposition, CDC, and other political parties are watching. And Alexander Cummings, the rest of the guys were at the annual message in the ceremony. They are following. After you have delivered these good speeches, people are following to know what happens in the next couple of weeks, months, and years to come. So the practical aspect of the issue of the drug test is what will make it and policy driven. And I know that the president does not have that authority over the legislators, and that was the reason why I think he used the word encourage. But he has control over the cabinet.
And he really said that the executive will lead by example.
Yes, and leading by example means it should be mandatory.
Thank you.
It should be mandatory, like you said, before confirmation. You should be able to bring out your drug test, the result. Let the public see whether you're positive or negative.
But do we have the sophistication?
Why not? Why not? It's happening in other countries.
That is minute for a government of a whole country.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
The government just taking over.
Government is continuity.
Sometimes, take for instance, we had the COVID-19. You may have said we didn't have the capacity, but we got it.
We got it.
I mean, Ebola came, we got it. So if it is a policy direction of the government, you can even have friendly nations, other countries to help with that process.
Sure.
But I really agree that the way it is put, unless we put some weight behind it, it will look more political than, and I think it's not late. I think the speech is up, but the president could still go back, call his kitchen cabinet, if you will, those working with the president now to say, okay, we're going to take this one step further, and we will include this as part of the precondition for going forward. I think that we will be able to make progress. So that was just one of the, like I said, it's a big elephant. That was just the
we will drop our eye on the economy.
Let me Antoinette, let me add on to that drugs issue. So one of the government officials who had earlier spoken to this issue about drug tests is the current, because there has not been any nomination for that position, the current chief of staff, Major General Prince Charles Johnson III. He has been trumpeting, the call for government officials to do drug tests.
I recall
because if you talk about combating, illicit drugs in the country, and the fact that young people are abusing drugs, and you want to fight drugs, you must be serious. You must take pragmatic actions, towards whatever that you're saying. And it begins with the leaders. If the leaders start to take the action, then the other will follow, because it serves as a deterrent. But we have seen over the period that it has been just a mere charade, that people will talk about, we want to combat drugs, we want to ensure that we eradicate the importation
Has
of
that been a
drugs
lip service
in the country. Well, you can say that, but it's obvious, you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you that it has just been like a mere statement. Now, so to have a president, like Chris said, presenting himself as the guinea pig, in the words of Chris, it shows that the president is intentional, he's serious, and he's ready to lead by example.
Okay.
So, like what my colleagues have said, I'm one person who believe that the president should have gone one step further, but not just saying I encourage. And Chris just nailed it on the head. That should. I was reading the code of conduct last night, Anthony, and it will interest you to know that within the code of conduct, I think part 20, it talks about before any public official, an employee of government, takes office, especially newly appointed or elected public official, an employee, they must sign the code of conduct.
Right.
But we don't see that happening. And the only reason why we don't see that happening, which we'll come to, I don't want to jump the gun, is because there's no ombudsman. The office of the ombudsman has not been established. So you need to, the president should have given, a timing, because nowadays you hear some of his critics talking about, remember President Boyka said he will have declared his asset.
Right.
And they are now running with it that the president has since not declared his asset,
declare
even
his
though the
asset.
former president,
Yeah.
it took several months, he did not declare his asset, but the fact that he has said it, so they're holding his feet to the fire.
Because he who calls for equity must come with clean
clean.
hands.
So you must attach timing to everything, and you must make it mandatory, as my colleagues are saying. You can't leave it open to say I encourage people. It should be something that, well, all of those nominated or those that will form part of the cabinet must take the just text and attach a date, a period to it.
Some of the observers,
that makes it serious.
Yeah, some of the observers are beginning to also.
And we
ask
should not leave the
questions.
military out of this.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
some of
think
the
we should not leave
observers
the
are also
military out of
talking
this.
about the constitution of the committee. For an example, clearly why is education ministry, for an example, not part of this committee? Do we see a need for the expansion of this committee, or do we think the committee is okay?
So
as
Anthony, let me quickly clarify, because something just came to my mind. Sorry. When I say we should not leave the military out of it, I'm not insinuating that
Oh, you have Who forced you to disclaim?
I'm saying we should get them, on the committee, especially for enforcement.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
But then again, I hope we thinking
Just
outside
shake your
the
mic.
box, because
Chris,
the issue-
just
the
check out your
issue-
mic a bit.
the
Okay,
issue
thank
of
you.
the military, we know that they got the clearly defined role. But let's see how it goes. We know that the chief of staff has been trumpeting this a lot, but there was, especially the emphasis was placed on education, because the youthful population, that's where they are. Why don't we have them also on that committee?
Which committee now?
The drug committee.
Okay, all right.
The one
I
headed by
understand.
Justice
Yes.
Ministry, Yeah. So that was the argument last night. Talking about where you have concentration of young people, those kind of umbrella organizations like the student organization.
I think education can help to
That's
create more
LISO,
awareness
LISO.
on that. So I think there's a need to have education on that committee. And you already got health, you got the DA people, and as
That
the member,
Justice Ministry.
yeah, you got Justice Ministry, I think, for law enforcement. And I think education should be on the committee. Yeah.
So, Tony, the president mounted a podium yesterday, not as a superhuman,
Absolutely.
right? The person that I know, right? I will have no doubt if he listens to the public.
Okay.
Yeah, because the most affected segment of our society when it comes to drug abuse is the young people,
Mhm.
right? And they have cluster organizations,
Right.
representation of organizations.
Right.
And I would not be surprised if the president includes one of those. Yes, I agree with you.
Okay.
Youth, education,
Yep.
maybe Linsu. I was on my show, the State of the Nation, and a one-time drug fighter texted me and said, this appointment made by the president is a drug user, right?
Mhm.
And I started to jitter because of character issue.
Yeah.
I decided not to call the accused name.
Right.
Waited for the accuser to give me pieces of evidence. So that means I'm saying this to say it is a huge problem.
It is.
If a presidential preferment can be accused of being a drug user, then what's about those who are not preferred? The young people. This morning I was driving from Burrowville. I stopped passing through Douala. He was already in narcotic and bang at my vehicle. Why are you driving slowly as if he's a traffic director?
Imagine
Right?
early morning like that.
Early morning. I leave from Burrowville latest 6 o'clock.
Right.
Why are you driving like this? You don't know we busy here, busy doing what thing, right? So, like all of us have agreed, we will keep hammering it that the president should set a date, set a testing center, and not make it optional. Don't encourage them, make it mandatory that you have to move on to do your tests. I was joking and telling somebody yesterday, say, thank God it didn't include palm wine. If there are palm wine inclusion, I would have tested positive.
So probably the president leads by example with the executive and encourage even our legislators
To
to
follow
say
suit.
this is what we're doing. Can you follow suit with your people?
Please, it took the legislature a long period of time to know that asset declaration was important and promotes transparency.
Right.
Right? First, it was just an executive. The judiciary, they did it maybe behind closed door, but now the legislature is doing it openly, and it will be so good if the legislature joins this fight,
Right.
since it is a national emergency.
Right.
On top of it, Anthony, we don't also see what could be a reprimandal action taken for whoever that could be found, being positive of drugs.
Mhm.
I'm not quite sure that was also mentioned in the president's speech.
Mhm.
So what if, a cabinet official is being tested positive of drugs? What happens? Are we leaving it open
that
to
was
say
not
that it
inserted in
implies?
That was not inserted. But I also believe if you look at other regimes, there is a way people deal with the issue of drugs. Like someone was telling me, parts of the United States, if you've been on the job for a long time and you are not
The
basically a
counseling.
user, you got to go for counseling or something.
Yeah, you got to go for
rehab
counseling, but at the same
But-
time, we got to spell it out clearly
Yeah, I
so that you
agree.
don't be on the job.
That's
Because
why we have a
we're talking
committee.
about
And
leading by
truly,
example.
like Oscar is saying,
Yeah.
man, there should be a
Yeah.
mass action.
Yeah.
So
Calling the president to relieve the individual
thank you.
from the post.
Besides that,
so can we have this committee coming
the
up
committee
with
come over 2
what
hours.
should happen?
Yeah,
I mean,
there'll be
in
a
case
2
we are
hour.
caught in this, these are the the penalties. So I think that one of the mandates of this particular committee should be to come up with what should happen to somebody who is found in that category.
Yes, because it
Especially-
cuts across,
especially
and Tony,
frequently.
it cuts across. When I send him my son VOA Junction, I'm afraid if he spends more than 10 minutes
Yeah.
allotted to come back home,
Right.
I'm afraid. Where is he?
And,
So, I'm not alone.
and Bowen,
Tatos can say it. Oscar can. You yourself will
Yeah.
bear the witness.
In fact, a neighbor was telling me that there's a guy. He's not sure the guy is a user, but the way the guy looks, and every time the guy will come in, I like he's not sound. He wants to sleep in the guy. Push. He said one day he took a stick and they slept running behind each other. When the guy lies and he will go to the get out of here. I will knock your head. And
Anthony, this fight
And
against
I will
drugs,
hope this. I know it's very
It's
critical,
very
but I want
important.
us to move a little bit from the drug.
Let's
and we
We're gonna go to the state of
But
the
let me
economy.
tell you why. Let me conclude on this drugs issue to tell you that it's important because lawlessness, has ravished our country. And if you were to look critically at some of the factors especially the leading factors contributing to lawlessness, disorderliness in the country, you can attribute that to the fact that our people are involved in drug or substance abuse. When our young people take in, these substances, they get very brave. I think you remember, and colleagues here will remember that there was a point in time where they said we don't like to call them Zogos, but our disadvantaged brothers and sisters got on the street and started marching, in Central Monrovia and parts, and nobody could touch them. People were all like afraid. The security, everybody was afraid. So if you start to, like Chris said, to hammer, this issue about drugs and drugs abuse in our country, I think gradually it will erode the issue about lawlessness in our country, because, Anthony, the country is really, really lawless. Young people are no longer afraid because they have already taken in the thing. You will look at one little boy that you can handle. He will just be brave and say anything to you, and to an extent he even wants to challenge you, taking a weapon for you. So people are brave, and because they are on drugs. So I think it's very important that we fight this.
Very serious topical discussion. We can go on this, but another very huge topic is also the argument about the economy, right? So we complain that when President Weah came to power, he didn't do any audits, and that's why things didn't go the way they were. Now, when the president was giving his farewell, he talked about what he left in the coffers. And President Boakai yesterday countered that. The numbers don't seem to be the same. And I think we all listen. I don't know whether you want to give it a shot.
Yeah, there's a latest reaction that came from the former finance minister, Toye, and he reacted to the president's State of the Nation address.
Okay.
Especially the portion that has to do with the economy.
Right.
And in the consolidated account, where the former president said he left around 40 million plus, and Baka said it is half of that they made in the account. Now, Tua said the information released by the president is not true. So now the fact checkers should now get to work. They need to do some fact checking, and I saw one information flittering online. People were sharing, but I didn't verify that, so I couldn't go through it well. But I think it was alluding that it's information coming from the central bank trying to confirm what the former president said. So I think there's a need for the fact checkers to go beyond what all the parties are saying, to check with the relevant authorities, the CBL, the finance ministry, and then, if possible, to know exactly what is in the consolidated account. Additionally to that, on the economy, there's a staggering revelation that came from the president's annual message regarding last year. We had a budget of 710 million plus, but then the expenditure component was around 796 million plus. Now we got a deficit of 80 million.
80 million.
So that's a serious issue that this government, when you hear people saying that we should manage our expectation, these are some of the issues. Because at times when you are not in government, when you are outside, you say a lot, you make a lot of big promises, right? But when you get into the seat, you see a different picture. So I think it's a serious problem for us. Maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, we have to start to rethink and try to manage our expectation like the politicians will say from the Unity Party. And because if a government is taking over with that kind of budget deficit, 80 million, it's a whole lot.
Right.
It takes time to be able to cover up. Yeah. So it's a challenge for us.
Yeah, there's already another issue of suspicion. I mean, the outgoing government thinking you want to witch hunt us, and the new government is saying, no, it's about transparency, it's about accountability. So there's the thought that there should be rather an international firm
Audit
that will do this audit to make sure that we remove any suspicion that it's political, you are just coming after me and the rest of it. What's your view across the table?
Okay, so I don't think, Tony, I think something is happening somewhere. Either somebody at the central bank might have informed either the former or the current.
Okay.
And in my opinion, it takes the current less than 24 hours to know what is in in the coffer, what was left behind. This is something that we didn't see 2018 when the Weir-led government took over, right? This amount left in the coffer at the central bank consolidated was a taboo. Nobody knew. Now that the outgoing said, I'm leaving 40 million, unlike Ellen did, and the current president said, I met 20 million. Well, somebody is informing somebody, misinforming somebody somewhere. And in my opinion, this has to be quickly addressed.
Right.
Because if you come to the game on the matter of transparency and accountability and anti-corruption, and there are two figures here, 20, it's 40 million. That's, you say 40. The current president said, I met half of 40. I don't think we need an international auditor to tell us how much is in our consolidated account. I don't think so. It is just within a twinkle of an eye. Mr. Governor, can you send me the bank statement of the Republic of Liberia?
Yeah.
Let me see. Let's see. And another way, I don't think the president, Joe Boakai, spoke out of the blue sky. He just took a number. He might have been informed where that information came from, maybe from the central bank.
Right.
So the central bank becomes the central.
He actually said the central bank released information that contradicted what the president had.
Okay,
released. Yeah.
so that means it even raises more eyebrows. And we, like we've always said, people calling on the president to go beyond just the statement. And it is good. Now, there's a claim and counterclaim on the book. The former Minister of Finance said, no, the president did not readily inform the Liberian people.
Yeah.
Mind you, in officialdom, presidency, you don't misinform.
No, you
because everything you say is a policy. So it is good that the president and his economic team go and counter check. If there were 40 million and you made 20 million, what is the problem? But if the former president misinformed the incoming, there's equally a problem.
So, considering that the legislature does appropriations and all those kinds of stuff, is there a way that they took in their role as oversight, persons? Could they also get involved in this process? Maybe call the central bank governor.
Yeah, the central bank.
Let's know what's happening.
Yes. Before my colleagues come in, they don't let this one go off the hook without their involvement, right? Since all financial matters begin with the lower house and then extends to the upper house, they should not let this one. This is an economic embarrassment, right? Already the president has reported 80 million deficit into the national budget. I'm even hearing that the current budget is record. Maybe to do some adjustment. I don't know what is going to be. Exactly. So the national legislature, this is the time to rise to the occasion.
Right.
Who is telling the truth? And having observed the truth or giving the truth, you have to inform the Liberian people. This is what your country had in the consolidated account, not those business as usual. Just write one memo and say, and then it becomes no public document. No, it has to be, since there are claims and counterclaims. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and gentlemen, you can't play with this because this is the Liberian people's money. The question of corruption is on the lips of everybody. With the kind of different figures coming, this is urgent, and there's a need to place our urgency on it.
Anthony, let me take it from another angle. I'm not going to mince my words on this. I'm going to be very emphatic about it. I think I am of the conviction that the immediate past government did not do due diligence to the Liberian people. The immediate past government or administration was marred by disservice to the Liberian people. Why do I say that? For example, Chris touched on it, when he was talking. The former president, George Weah, when he took over, he did not state how much, he met in a consolidated account. He did not state so. So there were this claim that I left this one in the account, and Ellen said, no, I challenge you people, and they could not come out.
In fact, the former president said, the former government said they never saw anything in the account.
They never saw anything. So they hid that information. They hid that information from the Liberian people until the eve of the inauguration of the current president, when the former president George Weah said, this was XYZ amount that he met in a consolidated account, and he was leaving this particular amount, while leaving the presidency. That in itself is disservice to the Liberian people. You were not honest. The government was mad by dishonesty. The second thing is that there was no independence, on the part of ministries, agencies, and autonomous agencies. For example, I don't know whether I want to believe that you people have seen that the same central bank that we're talking about, on this issue about those who were sanctioned by the United States government. So I saw this recent report, and I also listened to it on one of the sisterly media outlets that was talking about the central bank sent a communique to the Minister of Justice, talking about the fact that those who have been placed on United States sanction, there should be some freeze on their accounts, especially by the local banks.
Okay.
So the central bank just recently sent that communique to the Justice Minister, and obviously that was the time that the inauguration. So nothing has been done. So why up to the time
who are on government payroll?
Definitely, why up to the time the sanction was being placed on these people, nothing happened? Apparently, because the central bank was afraid. The central bank never had independence. Because people were all jittered that they were under a regime that was on their neck. So nothing could have been done, and that's why we see.
So we really need to be clear about.
So that's why we all are saying it is important now that since the government have been left off the neck of the people need to be able to come to speak out.
Thank you.
And there should be an audit.
Thank you.
There should be an audit.
It should be a matter of urgency.
Anthony, can you imagine we're talking about 2.2 billion?
Yes. That was trying to make an injection.
2.2 public debt.
That's where I wanted to come in.
Yeah.
The public debt issue
It's very huge.
From the economic standpoint, right? If you look at what the president said, he said the stock of public debt at the end of December 2023 stood at 2.21 billion. Now, that amounts to an increase of 8.67% as compared to 2022. Also in 2022, there was a stock of public debt around 2.08 billion. So mind you, that's why when I was going through that part of the speech, that gave me a clearer picture of why the economy, people crying all over this country. Because 2022 it was difficult, 2023 difficult period in succession. Now, when the former finance minister, who is now Senator Bapolu, when Amara Kone posted online that we should manage our expectation, this because he's a financier, right? He served as finance minister for the country. He has gone through this. Now, looking at those figures, those terrible figures, and the government is taking over now, it's a challenge. We see a whole lot of things in the next. We should not expect that things will be rosy for the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. So as journalists, as journalists, we are told by the immediate past president that he inherited a broken economy, but we are also told that he was leaving behind a good macro economy. Do we agree with all of these questions about the different figures?
No, I don't agree.
Okay.
That was vague.
Okay.
That was vague. That declaration was vague. The fact that you failed to give us any financial statement. And it's political. I've been in politics. I've been in the corridor of power before. I know what it mean, what the statement meant. Right? Imagine a losing party avails itself to be audited. A losing party avails its government to be audited, and you renege.
Yeah.
And on the surface, you say you inherited a broken economy and empty coffers.
Right.
Who's going to believe that? Well, they live with it, they manage with it. At the end of the 6 years, The Minister of Finance at MICAT press briefing admitted that they lost the war on propaganda
Right.
because the way they manage their own information sharing. Man, for God's sake, this one is going to be the breading on fast checkers, as Tato said. How much was left in the consolidated account? At least Mr. President, former President George Weah was magnanimous to say this is what I left. Madam President did not do so, but I'm told she did it through black and white.
Right. Because
in the turnover,
she even put up a challenge.
Yes.
To say, look, listen, I did need money.
In the turnover. Yet the incoming government then was saying, no, this is broken. So you shot yourself in the leg.
Okay.
And it is good that throughout the 6 years, no one actually, not many people, not a greater portion of our population didn't accept that. Unless you conducted an audit, man, you're not off the hook. It is good that the incoming government has made part of its policy a culture of audit. And if you preach transparency, this is the only way. This is the only way you can clear yourself of financial impropriety.
So we've already started hearing about some reactions coming from the immediate past administration. I mean, in that case, what would you expect them to do? Avail themselves for an audit that will prove their claims, whether they are right or wrong?
Tony, before the folks come in, there's no more option because the current president is on record to have called on the Liberian people that he will hire, or his government will hire international auditors working with the locals to get to know our asset recovery, right? So it is at this time it's belated to say whether or not this president is willing. He reiterated it yesterday. Okay. So that's it. It's a policy.
The former government got no option to say, oh, you're willing or not. You're not in power anymore, right? So the government of the day is the one that people will be listening to.
Okay.
So whatever the government says, that's what will be implemented. And when the government calls for audit, when the audit starts, those who are connected to those public institutions, we have to make themselves available.
No matter where you are. Now, I want us to draw our attention to this, because this is where all of us want to have a good say and to get a better result. That has to do with our economy. This economy, every country that has a dangling economy stands to always fall, and there can be any improvement when it comes to the livelihood of the people. The president yesterday spoke about on the state of the economy, that he said he was going to make sure that he thinks outside of the box. He also spoke about Liberia being sanctioned
by international organizations.
By the African Union, the African Development Bank, and therefore I call a default payment of about 650,000 or 650 million. And Liberia stands very low in terms of paying back those dues over the years. And he feels that it is an embarrassment for the growth of
the bus comes in. And thinking out of the bus in practical terms speaks to the issue of innovative ideas, innovative approaches. So the government is going to be taken out of the bus to bring out ideas. What can be done to lobby with these international organizations? We saw that during Mr. Salif's time. When Mr. Salif took over this country, the broken economy that the CDC was referring to was actually what Mr. Salif took over, because everything about Liberia in terms of foreign relations, everything was shite up. And Mr. Salif had to be traveling almost every month, 2-3 times here and there, to the point that even domestic public had problem with her. That, oh, she was traveling too much here and there. But a few years later, we realized that the country image had changed. Countries, international organizations started waiving debts. Now, you heard Lena Thomas Greenfield, the current ambassador of the United States to the United Nations. He was also ambassador here.
Former U.S. ambassador to Liberia.
You heard her saying that she was the one who headed the U.S. team here. she represented President Biden. She said emphatically that the American government, the Joe Biden government, is going to support this government. That is a strong diplomatic statement. And I think that the government is looking in that direction. They are going to work with the U.S. government, because if you have a government that does not have a good relationship with other countries, it makes it a little bit difficult for that in the country. And that's what we saw over the last 6 years. We need to be frank about that, right? How many international diplomats you saw coming here? And during the inaugural ceremony of George Weah at the SKD, most of the people we saw were people from his sector, footballers, international stars, musicians. And those were the people who came here. And these are people who normally spend their money on social issues. So Liberia over the last 6 years was basically about investing in social activities.
Celebrities.
So now we not to be frank, because we elected somebody from that class.
So if I were just jump in here, Mr. Topa, it sounds to me you're suggesting it's hard time government looks out there to attract direct foreign investment.
Good.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because you have a deficit of 80 million in the budget deficit.
Mm-hmm.
And so Samuel Tuer was just calling these big figures. For me, normally when Tuer used to speak as Minister of Finance, I always told people that he was not good at as a finance minister. He's more or less a
just calling numbers.
Yeah, he's more or less a propagandist. The last press conference he had at Minister of Information, and the guy was trying to speak to issues that people want to listen to, and he started making fun.
Mesmerize the mind.
Yeah, he started making fun. All the ministers who were there, the press conference turned into a laughing stock. So I look at that and say, but these guys are not serious.
So it looks to me like we have just talked 2 points. Chris talk about the look at some 15. We'll talk about 2.
We need to look at the legislative agenda. There are a lot of things.
We are coming. There are a lot of there are a lot of stuff.
You want me to help you out with the pointers that we did in our chat room?
Yeah,
I know you got your line up.
Yeah.
We have not even touched agriculture.
Yeah. So I mean, and because these points, and I think, like I said, I called this the sauna an elephant, because there was a lot that was in that sauna yesterday. And I like to encourage the government, because walking the streets, you hear people saying, "But nothing will happen." The same old story.
Mm-hmm.
They're using drugs everywhere. Mm-hmm. So you have to realize that the people believe that this cannot change, and you cannot keep doing business as usual. One of us said you can't keep doing the same thing, and
it's not going to be an easy fight.
Before Mr. Van, before you come in, let me just register to our panelists here. There was this speculation, like Christopher Silly said, speculations will always be in the making. Prior to the State of the Nation address, after the president was inaugurated, and people said the president didn't conclude his speech, and in fact, how will he conclude during his first deliberation during the SONA? And it was speculated across the length and breadth of Liberia, even on the social media, that there was a cheer placed right there in the Capitol building where the president was going to be seated to speak to the Liberian people and to the legislature.
No, that was misinformation.
So what kind of Liberia are we portraying? What kind of Liberia are we portraying?
No, but in the first place,
and the president stood up and spoke.
The chair that was over there was actually for the Speaker of the House. Okay. Right? Well, the chair you saw with the seal.
Yeah.
The seal of the country. That is the Speaker's seat. And then across that seat, you had a podium. The official podium was there.
Yeah.
That was the podium for the president. In fact, I covered the legislature from 2010 up to 2014 for ERBC then. That place, when the president goes to address the joint session, he does not sit. The same thing with the United States. You know, our politics will copy after the US. So just go on YouTube and watch some of
I've been
the stuff from the US when the president delivered the State of the Union address. So they announce the president, he appears, and then he begins the statement. Once he ends his speech, the thing he does after that is just to greet few people who probably are the front row, because there are some officials of either from the legislature or that probably he's thinking about appointing, like now he's still trying to form the government. Some of them will be in the crowd. They want to be recognized. So they will be waving to the president. So the president will see some of them and say, oh, Jeff, greet them. But those are the front row. The president will do a few handshake, and then the president leave the hall. So the president does not sit. I know people were saying that because on the basis of what happened on the day of the inauguration. And that was an unforeseen circumstance. Right? It happened. That's what we call crisis. Crisis is something that you don't expect.
Point number 3, civil service. It's another issue that has been trending. In fact, there's this whole thing that the new government is going to slash, the civil service, and the president placed some lights on the civil service yesterday. What did you all pick from that?
Okay, so let me jumpstart that. Right after the address yesterday, one of my co-worker at Truth FM came to me. The president didn't mention labor, the labor sector. So I had to do some education, right? Civil service servants fall within labor. I try to be a little bit sarcastic but playing fun out of it. I say, so when people go to work, civil servant, that beauty pageant they can go for, that labor, right? So it makes me to believe that the president, and he was readily informed, over 70,000 civil servant.
Huge wage
bill.
And that has been it has been like that since 2006.
Yes.
So we had a bloated civil service. She talked about
they even did what do you call
right
sizing,
downsizing.
Downsizing. At the end of the day, it's still escalated to astronomical numbers. And with the quest for development, infrastructure development, matched with wage bill, right? It is a huge tax. And as he said, there are some reforms to be made. Somebody called me last night. Oh, the president didn't talk about the harmonization. So that means he concurs. Well, that's it. This notorious or infamous harmonization, I don't know how this government is going to talk about it, but those within that bracket, that civil servant, they should know that they are a major point of interest on the coming government. I don't know how the president is going to go about, but that 300 million yearly on wages for a country that wants infrastructure development. Well, I don't know whether we can stick with the harmonization or we have to do some adjustment to, and I know no civil servant want to hear about that harmonization. No. It's too infamous. Let me just put it this way: it's notorious. It's notorious.
I think for me, the way I look at the civil service, considering what the president said, making reference to the 300 million annually, that is just huge for a country like Chris said. But you will agree with me that some of us who had the opportunity to work with government institutions for some time, one of the things we realized, Mr. Vanwan, is that the payroll has always been bloated.
Okay.
And bloated in the sense that who benefits? Not the people who are down there. The people on top. They are the ones that always benefit from the bloated payroll.
Okay.
And I'll give you an instance. When I worked for ELBC, that was one of our major challenges here at the national broadcaster. You have reporters who go out to fetch news, going in and out, making less than $100 at the time. I don't know what they make now. I'm just using LBA as a case study because they're where I worked for over a decade. And then you had security that sleep on duty 24/7. You pay them $75. When Mrs. Salif came, she had a tradition. Every annual message, she may attempt to raise civil servants' salary. To the point that the minimum was like around $100. I know some of these autonomous agencies try to even argue that they are autonomous agencies, they don't fall under civil service, so they wouldn't be in line with that. And here and there, and that brought controversy. So I was privileged at one time to get a copy of the entire budget. I can't remember the year, but that time it was Mrs. Seti was president by then. I think her first term. For example, you got bill for internet for the system.
Right.
You see, this is internet service providing like, let's say $100,000 for the budget year. But you go to that department, the department does not have internet, even the entire institution. So my question now was, this 100,000 for internet, is it coming? If it's coming, why is it that internet is not in the institution? So if internet is not in the institution, what are they doing with the 100,000? Can we shift this 100,000 to something else? So that problem cut across all these government ministries and agencies. There are things they put in the budget that are just not workable.
But maybe you were
And they attach money to it.
privileged. Do you have any information at the level of which civil servants have access to this kind of information? Because in most ministries, agencies, and commission, probably you go to work, at the end of the day, you go for a salary. You're not going to ask anybody, well, what are you getting for electricity? What are you getting for?
No, the budget is a public document. It's just that we're not taking time to read. You know, it's a whole big stuff. So some people, but when you go to the budget, they said they have the table of contents. For example, they say Ministry of Public Works. You just go to Public Works, you will see the budget summary for each ministry.
Spending line.
You will see expenditure and that kind of stuff. Everything is there. So there are things they put there. Then they look at, besides those other issues they put there.
Right.
Let's look at the salary of these top officials. When I covered the legislature, the LTA was one of the controversial institutions. That came up with the issue of salary. You have commissioners making up to $5,000. So the lawmakers at the time, they were not making that kind of money, or probably they were around that amount. So they said, no, commissioners cannot be making $5,000. When we here as the people's representatives, we are not making even that amount. That was the reason why these guys started advocating that their salaries or their benefits should go up. I remember having an interview with the former presidential minister, the man who replaced McGill. Blamo, we said Blamo from Grand Crew on that. And I asked him, what is the salary you make as a lawmaker? He was like trying to...
He didn't want to disclose the information.
Yes, he said, I remember he telling me he's making around 20-some thousand. Librarian, I said, no, 20-some thousand is not a figure. Be exact. The Liberian people want to know. Now, the U.S. component at the time was around 8,000. Now, I heard in the news from OKFN, one lawmaker, I think from Lofa, Senator Momo.
Yes.
Senator Momo said he makes around 10,000 some more dollars, all of his benefits. So according to him, he made a commitment that he's going to give his benefit out to the people of Lofa for the next 1 year. We've heard that from other politicians around here, and some of them don't even stick to it.
No.
We just heard from Moserado that there's a consolidated account that have $1 million plus. Somebody promised that they were giving their salaries to the county, but now the money disappeared from the consolidated account. You see that? So we hope it doesn't happen with Lofa. But now, if this senator had not gone on the radio to say, okay, my benefits around 10,000 some more, the Liberian people wouldn't have known how much our lawmakers make. We need to know. The fact checkers need to go after these kinds of information. These are people that the Liberian people employ. That's the reason why if we never had authority over these people, the Constitution wouldn't have said the power is inherent in the people. That's why we went to election recently. We said, Mr. Weah, we don't want you. And Mr. Weah left. Now we have a new president. If the president does well, good. If he doesn't do well, we go back to the election, we change him. You see? But why will, for example, the man is an ordinary staff at LBS or Minister of Public Works. We know all their salary. But those on top, why we can't know their salary? We should know.
So since talking about civil servants, there's such thing like insurance, for an example. I went to a particular institution. I had a friend. He's not well. And then when I asked whether he had insurance, he said, no. Our people said that they told us to agree so that it can be deducting our money for the insurance premium, and that has not happened. So there's no money for me.
So it's not compulsory. It's not a scheme that is mandatory. That when you work for LBS, when I worked for LBS at the time, we had SAR insurance. During my administration as president of the Workers Union, that was one of the things I insisted. I went to Mr. Ma at the time of Director General. I said, Mr. Ma, if you cannot do anything for LBS, the workers need insurance. No matter. Then he said, Titus, his fear was, Titus, the money the people make is not much. I said, good that you know the money is not much. So to deduct. So we had one other insurance company that was charging around $25. We had another one $15 per month. We had another one $10. We brought it to the workers. The workers said, okay, we will take the $10.
Okay.
So every month, up to the time I left LBS, the insurance was still here. I don't know whether it's still here, but my days, we had the insurance here. So for example, when you have, because there are times you have challenges with your health, you don't have money.
Exactly.
And you need to be treated. You don't necessarily need money to go to the hospital, but you must have some program. That's what the people do in the United States. They got Medicare. Yes, to take care of you, because there are situations that even your money will not be able to handle, but the insurance can cover it, and later on, you can be able to pay. So the government should make it mandatory for all these public institutions to have health insurance.
So we are not going step by step with the arrest, but let's look at the roads. I mean, we're talking about
mainly we are in the legislative agenda now.
Yeah, the roads. We're talking about counter stations for road maintenance. Yeah. What, because I remember we used to have rural development ministry.
Yeah,
we used to have
that was repealed.
Yeah, local public works, and now are we sort of trying to go back to that kind of program, because he's not, I mean, the president is not talking about road maintenance stations across the country?
Okay, so if this policy fails, then I think Liberia has got a problem, because even 2017 we didn't have arrest, right?
We have
We had road. Think Liberia, love Liberia, and build Liberia.
Right.
And inside that think stuff was road. The current president even accused the former president or former government of copycatting, let me put it that way.
Right.
His road policy. As a child growing up, they used to have road maintenance stations like from here to Buchanan at Louisville, to Buchanan, before Buchanan, from Banga to Vonjama at Wenju, and then from Vonjama to Kolahun at Remekam, where they have the LPMC.
Right.
So at least once a month you see hired laborers start brushing the road.
Okay.
And then right after that, you see the yellow machine making some intervention.
Okay.
The president put himself on record. 90 days, no vehicle will get stuck in the mud. And then I look at this
Crazy,
thing.
you want to believe that?
In 90 days,
Maybe
for me, let me tell you this way.
So
Let me tell you,
I don't want to
it's
believe
primary
that.
road. But Tatos, this is it. In my opinion, I just told my listeners the last time, and I believe this one. No vehicle gets stuck in mud during the dry season. And the 90 days will cover the dry season. Yes,
That's a good analysis.
the 90 days will cover the dry season, or the 90 days falls within the dry season. So where we should start thinking, after the dry season, we're in the rainy season, and I want to go to Harper, nowhere I need to fly. The last time I had to fly in the turbulent weather to get to Harper. The last time I went to Vonjama, I had to spend a week just close to my hometown because the road was bad. I had to detour to Bakedu, come to Konadu, then to the Guinean border, then enter Vonjama. When I just needed 5-minute drive to my hometown.
So much expensive.
Yeah, because what we were carrying, the goods we were carrying.
Okay.
So when the president said, and I see the independent newspaper of same thing, bring it a countdown, right? Countdown on the 90 day
that we end as a dry
season. For me, in the 90-day deliverable on the road, no vehicle will get stuck in a mud. This extreme dry season, this tropical sun is shining, no mud.
Somebody, Chris,
So you think that was a clever?
Chris, somebody might be thinking that the president tried to outsmart, the citizenry by saying, look, the first 90 days when he knows it will be dry season. What would you say to somebody who would argue from that perspective?
Interesting that before my colleagues come in, interesting that the public, the anxiety for good rule, they didn't take that into consideration, that the first 90 days would be a subset of the dry season.
Even some sections of the opposition are already counting.
Counting. Yeah. I got a Pathfinder Jeep. I go on my farm that during the middle of the dry season, I don't tamper with it, right? I go and unhindered because the roads are dry.
Right.
Except where the president yesterday, he said there will be interventions one point to the other.
But there's road maintenance.
Yes, so it is different from getting stuck or different, and then where your bearing had to be damaged because of the ditches and stuff like that. So if it is the sticking in the mud for 90 days, and Oscar, I can assure you, you can go to your hometown without sticking
in the mud. It will be the guzzler.
Yeah.
So let's come to agriculture. The argument has been that the best bet for Liberia is agriculture.
Yeah.
And I know Chris, you'll be big on this because you're always on the
agro-journalist.
Yes.
Yeah. So probably you can launch us into what's your reading into this. In fact, it is the first letter in arrest, agriculture. What's your reading into this? How can you send this home? There are some who believe that I can make a farm and survive. Somebody will tell you, to make farm to feed myself, I can't make it. It can't work. I mean, what would you say? You have an experience being an agriculturist, but I will call you an agri-journalist. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'm the progenitor of agro-journalism.
Okay.
And I'm writing a paper on that. Okay. It could be used as a textbook in any of these journalisms, especially those who want to diversify. So it is like, I like to measure Mr. Weah's administration and pinpoint failure. The sector that brought him to limelight, it died under his administration. Sports. Football. Samuel Doe was a military man. It is during Samuel Doe's administration that Mr. Weah and his likes rose to higher height in football. So I would not hesitate to equate it to a Bwaka administration, who is once upon a time Minister of Agriculture, once upon a time Managing Director LPMC, Rebecca Vonjama. And
so it's manager of LPMC Vonjama.
Yes.
Managing Director of LPMC Morovia.
Minister of Agriculture.
Right.
Imagine all in our sector.
Imagine as a journalist, I went to school to learn journalism. And I am president of the Republic of Liberia. That there's no free press. I have failed because my area of concentration or specialty is the least under my administration. Then woe unto me. And this is how we're going to measure. And I know the Liberian people will measure the Bwaka administration. Agriculture. I own an 83-acre farmland. Right? I'm struggling. And then I once upon a time applied for grant. Because of my name, I was denied that grant.
Because of your
name? Because of my name.
How can you explain
because that? Of my posture on the radio or critical...
Your name and your career.
Just because of that, I was denied. And somebody told me, say, man, you got a very good... Inspection was made, everything, but I couldn't get the grant. Imagine this new agriculture minister. I've read his background. He's rich in academic credentials.
Okay.
It is now time. He's a very good friend of mine, Dr. Alexander Nuta. It is now time to translate those credentials into reality.
Practical
Where
reality.
Is your farm, Mr. Minister?
Right.
Come on. Where's your farm? Let's compare it
Does
with
does he have any history of having farm before now?
I don't know about that, but I know the president has a farm in Bama area.
Okay.
Oil palm, right?
Okay.
I know the president is interested in rice production, right? The president equally has serious concern on how once upon a time, Kari was treated. Kari is a research center.
Right.
It was politicized. So, if this president reneges on agriculture, in fact, he said it is the bedrock for any nations wanting to feed itself. We reached to a point where Tatos, Oscar, Chris, Varon, and your producer here, Muscle, will not do the work. A Liberian, an average Liberian farmer will not afford a power tiller. The last time I asked for it was $4,000. Right?
Farming.
You can't. You know what Mali did? Mali is 75% desert. The rest of it, arable. You know what they do? They're exporting rice now out of Mali. You know what they did? They formed cooperative. Anthony, Oscar, Tatos, and Chris are member of this. There's a tractor over there, power tiller. It's sold for $10,000. The four of you go and take one. The government will pay half. You will pay half. The half will loan it up to you, right?
Pay small.
You pay small. That is for your produce. You should sell your produce to government, and when it is sold, we will subtract until the five of you jointly can pay for the tractor. But while you're using it, government is going to pay or going to match your side of the payment. Today, Mali is an exporter of our staple that we are importing. Go to Ethiopia. Remember now, the song that said, "Heal the world," Michael Jackson and others. Ethiopia had a drought. Today, Ethiopia is exporting wheat to countries that are in need because of the same policy. There are businesses here selling tractors. As I said, the last time I checked for tractor, man, 4,000. Where am I getting the 4,000 from?
But there's a huge opportunity
So
here,
it is
Chris,
government's
because
responsibility.
President Bouaka himself is aware of all of these. Being the agriculturist he is himself, coming from LPMC. I remember when he served at LPMC, Vonjama bought cocoa from farmers. He knows about all of these. Then managing director of LPMC. So if I mean, when do we start seeing some key movements? Like yesterday, you talked the thing about drugs. One would have thought you would also lay something out for agriculture.
Yeah, so
since it is your mainstay.
Yeah.
President Bouaka,
and you know that the former agriculture minister, right? Like Chris was talking about credential. That reminded me about that lady. When former president we are appointed the lady, people were excited about her appointment because they said,
you mean the immediate past minister of agriculture, Jenny Cooper?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they said she was into agricultural stuff. She was producing her own stuff and thing. So there were a lot of good reactions about her on social media. Mind you, there was this situation with LMDI owned by Mr. John Colley in the agriculture ministry, the same minister. Similar thing Chris talked about him applying for grain, and then he had a challenge. So there was this grain according to the information, and LMDI applied. LMDI won it, but because of some other reasons, and these people at the ministry tried to fight the LMDI.
Okay.
And LMDI is one of the media institutions in this country that is doing extremely well, especially with development reporting.
Right.
They're all in places, inaccessible areas that other journalists cannot afford to go. And to get to the inaccessible places requires money. So John takes the risk, goes out there. And I remember on a couple of his programs, he kept talking about this issue, kept raising it because he got a radio, he had control. So he kept talking about it. And being that he kept talking about it, I think I overheard the former president intervene, and that's how they were able to get John that contract. And I think people should not get grain or whatever contract on the basis of somebody on top trying to intervene. It should be on the basis that Chris applied for this. Chris meets the requirement and he able to do the work,
right?
And they give it to him. But to attach all kinds of string to these things, it makes it a little bit difficult for the sector to move. So if the president, like Chris said, if the president really wants agriculture, and I like the analysis he made. Mr. Vawa is a journalist, a long-time professional. If, for example, you are appointed today as Director General of ELBC and you come to the LBS and you don't perform, and you don't perform, chief, forget it.
Yeah.
Meaning,
It's easy to measure your failure.
Yes, whatever you have done in the past, forget it. People will not regard it.
That's true.
You see, that man went to LBS, he damaged our people, he made a whole journalist. Yes. So the same thing with President Buakai. Agriculture has been his niche. There where he mentioned it in his inaugural address. He spoke very well about that. He gave a history where he comes from. Good. We know that. The entire nation knows that. When you hear Joseph Buakai name, it's about
synonymous to agriculture.
Yes. So now you are in the top most respected seat in the nation. What are you going to do? Put those thoughts into action. Because leadership is basically about action.
Yeah.
If we deliver all these good talks and at the end of the day people don't see action,
would you want an agriculture plan, an agriculture blueprint covering Liberia, maybe policies? For an example, every member of the executive must have a farm or have a farm that we can go to.
I know few lawmakers over the last few years who have visited their farm, like Honorable Prince Moe from Bong.
Okay.
He's now producing palm oil. When he started his farm newly, when he first entered the legislature, one of the reporters who visited his farm in Weishu, a very big farm where he got people employed. And that also creates job for young people, for people in that area, for the locals. And Honorable Snow, all of us know Honorable Snow has been unveiling most of his produce online. We see them. And there are a few of them who doing well. Honorable George Moba too has, I think he's into the rubber area and palm stuff. Some of the former officials got their farm. But Honorable Moses Colley from Lofa
County.
Yes, he's doing extremely well in that place. And it was unfortunate that he didn't win the election. Yes, but he's really doing well in Lofa. I saw his farm. I was very impressed. If all of the 103 lawmakers of this country can try at least to invest in agriculture, that is a practical example that others will follow suit.
So, I mean, when you see the trucks, you see the low belt, you see the trailers coming from Cote d'Ivoire, from Guinea, from Sierra Leone. They're not bringing anything that doesn't grow here. You go to Douala, you're asking for pile of oranges. You know, brother from Sierra Leone.
Look at that.
Oh, yes. You go to Red Light, you see the trailer. Oh, this trailer full of pepper came from Guinea. And so on and so forth.
You see Liberians running on the truck.
So what comes to mind is if there's anything we need to learn, would it be a good thing to look at these people on the programs, how they got to where they are today, their strategies and all of that?
Yes, best practices.
Best practices that we can also share with our people. Because I remember growing up, our parents kept their money under the beds. They took the cocoa, they harvested, and by the time you went for your school fees, they would go under the bed, pull the money from it, and give it to you to come back.
That was a local bank.
So they ask you to stay outside until
exactly. Yeah, but then again, even to the spirit, the thought, the mindset. Everybody migrating now to Monrovia. Everybody wants to be in the city. Everybody wants to go buy 25 kg bag of rice. You know.
That's because a boiling point.
Like we say in Liberia, even if you just throw the seeds around, they will grow by themselves.
And the country rice, you won't believe.
So maybe if we have that policy direction and start to drive people along those lines. I even see up there we used to have farm. You got the tilapia sided, and you know all those things will be there. The farmers say you have pumpkins, other things, corn, all mixed up. You always have food running.
Let me add on to what my colleagues have said, Anthony. In
that's before we start taking the calls.
In addition to having individual lawmakers or government officials owning a farm, which is something that we can all subscribe to, is good. But we also want a national farm, a government farm. You know, you can always have, because what will happen is that these people would personalize it. You know, it's their personal farm, in as much as they could be providing jobs, but we need to have a government farm. You know, I say this because, for example, you listen, you know, in the past administration, there was this debate about presidential project and that of government project. You know, somebody wants to take the glory, but when we make it to be a national endeavor, a government project, that is even bigger, you know, and yields more benefits than ensuring that or making a policy where we can have individuals on a farm. I just wanted to chip in on that.
Okay, so before we start taking our calls, the thing about it is sometimes it's good to put the papers down. All the ideas can be good. To see them working is a problem in Liberia. So we have to start thinking about how we get down to work. I remember the days of Mr. Taylor. Sometime he would just grab his ministers and say, let's go to my farm. And everybody will go on the farm and be there and the rest of it.
So what happens to yours?
Exactly.
You know, before we take
You go
the
to
calls,
president
Tony,
farm.
I have some spell out in Kaduna, Nigeria, right?
Okay, yeah,
So you mentioned tilapia.
right.
There's a pond in where we're staying. Sorry, and this lady tells me today's sales will be low. I said, why? I said, because everyone has left. The potential buyers have all left the city. They go on their farms.
Wow.
And
wow.
all the nightclubs are quiet on a Friday, just after Friday prayer. They're
You're
gone.
visiting the nightclubs?
Oh yes, yes. Nightclub that taboo. Where were you? So why if on the day, like Tato was mentioning, most of these people you see, they're not the open tap farmers, but they got farms all over the place.
Right.
Man, come on, weekend, man. Let everybody leave.
Yeah.
Decongest Monrovia, go on your farm.
But you're talking about the farm, Chris. I left Lomé and was headed for Liberia. I got to the second city in Ghana. It's called Takoradi.
Yeah.
We went to a place they had entertainment area. They have food and the rest. The guy took me to a pond. He said, "Man, let's go and buy fish." So God, I said,
So where?
I said, where? He said, yeah, I go. Like, we won't saw the place. I said, but they will die before we reach Liberia. And the guy buzzed out laughing. He said, no, we're not carrying them. We'll buy them, we'll cook them for us. I said, but what, my man. So the lady came. And the guy just wanted to say one-on-one. She used some kind of net and just took all the two.
Yeah.
We sat down, taking
A
our
point and kill. They call it point and kill.
Thank you. We looked, the Pope prepared that for. We're like, wow. The Pope said, oh yeah, these are here. When they
You
get
enjoy that when you go for a buffet.
Yeah.
So at this point, we'll cross
So
over
we-
to Mervin. Let's begin taking our calls now.
Yes, of course, the numbers are 08805140096, 08805140096, or 07759785530. Our panelists are here this morning in persons of Christopher Sele. He's the former Deputy Director General for Rural Broadcasting here at the Liberia Broadcasting System. Tato Stopa of Media Aid and Oscar Moba, a journalist as well. Along with me on the platform this morning is Anthony Vawen. Together, we are presenting this super morning show. So keep your calls coming, 08805140096. 07759785530 is a post analysis on the State of the Nation address by His Excellency President Joseph Yoma Boakai. That was yesterday at the Capitol building in Monrovia. I guess you followed, those of you who followed all of the community radio stations across Liberia that were relaying from us yesterday. You listened to your leader. There are other views perhaps you want to let out from your chest this morning. You have the opportunity. Let's now talk to this person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I go by the name Shaka Bobby Brady Zulu. I call you from Zoo Age, political mechanic. Thank you so much for the show.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I must appreciate the president for his speech. That was delivered. I think it was healthy, but what I think it needs to be more healthy. I think the issue of fighting drugs is not, only Liberia. I think President Todball used to smoke boom, but that doesn't mean that, even if you smoke boom, then that means you are not the president. But the issue of fighting drugs is a global problem. And Liberia have a lot of problems. He and his vice president been tested for drugs. It's not the only problem Liberia have. I think the problem that we have, we have a poor borders. We are connected to countries like Sierra Leone, Guinea, and we are connected to them. Some of them are smuggling drugs into the country. We have to fight that. Our immigration system, our security sector, revamping our agriculture sector, institution, the inclusive in the governance. That we in the Southeast, we feel like they're marginal, needs in governance now. We do not have much ministers and people from the Southeast. I think you need to be a great leader who is inclusive and transparent, be able to include the youth of Liberia. These are things that we expect from him,
Okay.
to now. I think the issue of fighting drugs is a global problem.
Thank you.
I think President Bosco needs to be inclusive in his governance. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For the comment.
Thank you. 077. Let's take this person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chief. And let me say good morning to the rest of the panelists on the show. The name is Kwewu William Covey, and I joined this conversation from District 3. Let me appreciate some of the very funniest journalists when it comes to the post analysis regarding the Sunan yesterday. And Oscar, thank you very much. I think my brother found that, I was hoping that you should be brought to the ELBC. We need the voice so much. When you are at True FM, thank God, at least my prayer come to pass. So, regarding the issue of fighting the drugs, for me, I want to make suggestion to our government that the Liberal Drugs Enforcement Agency is calling back now that is working. I want to make suggestion to the government that it should dissolve the current Liberal Drugs Enforcement Agency, as this was done AFL when Erin took over the standard all of the army and the three new batch of army today. They have been called force for good. The Liberal DEA, there are a lot of guys we see in the street, they say they are enforcing drugs and whatever. Even when you look at their political authority, look at people who even taking the substance. How can somebody be taking the substance and then you say they're fighting against it? I don't think it is possible. So for me, I want to put out this banner, everybody, and train new batch that every month or 2-3 months, they can do a checkup on them so that they can be able to enforce the law properly. And those disadvantaged youth that they will take off the street, like Oscar said, the government needs to have a government farm. You can take the guys, they give them there, they can serve as a labor force and even create a vocational school. Can be trained after a certain amount of time that they can be rehabilitated and they can be taken up to come back in the society to make impact to the growth and development of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's take more calls. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, and I'm Gemeti Kakula. And I would like to appreciate
Excuse me.
the panelists. Yeah.
Yes, please call your name.
I'm Gemeli Kakula.
Okay.
And I'm actually calling from the Clubhouse community. Let me appreciate the panelists for your fair analysis. And in relation to the agricultural sector, I can assure you that the new elected Minister of Agriculture is indeed potent because he has his own family where he's even producing rice.
Wait.
And so Liberia can rest assured that we are bound to be rescued.
Thank you. You been on the farm? Morning.
I thought you would have asked him where.
Morning.
Yeah, Stewart, how you doing?
Good morning, sir. Stevie's on.
Steven's on Zulu Whiskey.
Go ahead.
Let me say thank you and to your panelists. You have set it off. It's just that we got to come on to make some point. I love the part that you said the testing issue of drugs is not about encouraging people, but rather it should be mandatory. That's a point there. And another thing I've seen about the testing of drugs that will bring distraction is about people see the president saying about testing as a provocation. Now, as we speak, Yaga is coming with a counter argument by saying the president should also improve pound one testing. So I think that
I disagree.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Power test.
Christopher.
Maybe I disagree. That they got power test.
Maybe you got all this on the Lovar Road now. Okay, 07759785530. Let me take it from this side. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, caller. Oh, our baseline is giving problem. Okay, 07759785530. You can call on this alternative line and speak your mind this morning. Okay, let me talk to this person. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Melvin, and let me say good morning to the panelists. My name is Alex Bofaga. I call from Bangabong County.
Go ahead, journalist Ellis Bofaga.
Well, thank you so much. I want to say thanks to the panelists, most especially Big Brother Christopher Selly. Long time, man. Good to hear you this morning.
Thank you.
Well, Melvin, I think the senior brothers have said it all. The president said lots of good things yesterday in his State of the Nation address. And one good thing he said is that they should not be business as usual. And that is to say, when these things are implemented, I think in my mind, Liberia will be moving forward. Most especially where the president stated that the fight against drugs is not just with the citizens, but he and his vice president will also take the lead. And I think we need more explanations surrounding that, because the fight against illicit drugs is a very huge task, Melvin. It's not just about doing a tax. What are the measures put in place and all of that? And to close, the big brother said one good thing that I think the government needs to act on. When you look around Africa, most especially West Africa, just next door, Melvin, Sierra Leone, Guinea-Bissau, Niger, and other African countries, of course, they have national farms where the government produce rags, sell to other neighboring countries, and by that they are providing job opportunity for all the ordinary people who can work in the government, most especially those who form themselves in the informal sector. So I think if the government of Liberia looks in this direction, that means we'll be obviously moving forward. I want to say thank you so much for the show, and I just want to laud them for some of the recommendations they are proper to the new government so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we can take 3 more calls, then we go back to our discussion, to our panelists, and we get their party comments because 10 o'clock we leave the scene. Let me speak with this person. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Emmanuel Quena. I'm calling you from Swazi City.
Go ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, let me say thank you to the studio guest, and also say about the thank you to the president. I think listening to some of his speech, but I did not have the time to listen to it. However, one thing I did not hear had to do with the issue of tribalism in this country. I know the issue of tribe here is the issue of they have to do identity, but I travel almost in all the countries in this country, but tribalism is eating up this country. But I don't hear the presidency actually talking about it. I say this to say that people are appointed only because they are from a specific, only because they are from the county. I think our government in time past have been alluding to tribalism because the fight starts from the perspective that if you are not from here or you are not born from this country, it means you are not, and of course Liberia is one country. So I just want to make it short to say that I think I want to hear the president trying to bridge that gap and try to integrate this country, let people be qualified and be able to work as, commissioners and superintendent, not because you're from the country, so you should be appointed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We take 3 more presents, then we call it a day. 07759785530, 07759785530. You can call and be a part of the conversation this morning on the Super Morning Show. Okay, let me speak with this person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, my name is Ibrahim Sefa, calling from the brush.
Go ahead.
Okay, yesterday the president just made my day. I was really relaxed when I heard the president speak on some issues very important to the country, especially the drugs issue. And also, I believe the president all the things are available, and I believe him because one of the experienced men is always an experienced man. What he has done to agriculture and the other sector, and he will improve. I believe that this president will do more better than what other president has done. First of all, on the drugs issue, I asked the president to take it seriously and then
Okay.
Once you do that, you see most people will stop this drug. Thank you for putting me the time.
Thank you. Okay, we're not taking calls now. We almost out of time, so I'll go back across the table. Your Mr. Sally, you heard some of the callers'
Yes.
recommendations so far.
Yes, and I took keen interest in the area of tribalism from the caller in Zwedru. He spoke. This is concerning, and except any other person does this, but I haven't noticed anything when it comes to tribalism or sectionalism in the latest appointment. In fact, the president is even putting more emphasis on the national identity registry, and at that point, they don't ask you which tribe you are, and this happened in Rwanda, right? The genocide. So they had on their ID cards either Hutus or Tutsis. When the genocide took place, they decided to abolish it. This time, you just Rwandan, and the national identification card will carry the inscription or has been carrying the inscription Liberian, and nothing more, nothing less. Except somebody wants to promote tribalism, which is not good for a volatile society like this. And I don't want to speak on behalf of the president, but I can equally share the concern with the caller in Zwedru that if anything of such is noticed, it's worth talking about, since we are promoting peace and transparency.
In fact, Emmanuel Quena actually did say that it happened in time past.
Yes.
So
you make a reference. Yeah, he doesn't want
just
to
make a reference.
Yeah.
Tadas, you.
Yeah. For me, I think the quarters were just in line with some of the points we've been talking about.
Supporting agriculture.
Yeah, the arrest project stuff, plan of action. But there are a few things that on the legislative agenda that the president talked about. We haven't talked about it. Like he talked about the Presidential Transition Act. It's a bill that has been lingering in the corridors of the legislature for a while. And you saw what happened with the inaugural program. Right. And so the this act will set the pace for the transitional committee. Will be able to direct to know the TOR of the transitional committee, so that it doesn't happen like two groups coming together. You appoint your people, the incoming appoint his, and then there's this clash because the people who are going out, they feel somehow and aggrieved because they are losing their positions, and here and there they will not cooperate with the incoming. So there's a need for the legislature to look at that act. There's another one. He talks about tourism. The tourism are trying to take away the tourism aspect from the Ministry of Information. So meaning that would be like, because he raised concern about the civil service bill.
Right.
Now, if you are creating another ministry, then that 300 million will not be 300 million again. It will be going up. So you remember Erin talking about the small government?
Yeah.
So we also got to look at that. And that bill too has been lingering. So probably the legislature got their own reason why it has been there. They need to also look at that. But there's another aspect of it. Like now you see Patawi and some of the waterfalls. We have some of the beautiful places we have. Like Lofa, I was in Lofa the other time. Lofa got so many sceneries that we can develop once the road is fixed, that we can develop and be able to raise a lot of money. Then lastly he talks about the almost man that we talk about in the beginning, that will be able to set the pace for the implementation of the code of conduct. So there's a need for all that. But while creating these new ministries and agencies, we also have to look at the issue of small government.
And he also spoke about the establishment of the Ministry of Local Government. So I was thinking, what is the relation between
the Ministry of Internal Affairs?
and
the name, it is a nomenclature that will change.
Yeah.
That's the difference. But the ministry remains, because it is enshrined in the Local Government Act of 2018 that the ministry will now change from Internal Affairs Ministry
Ministry of Local
to Ministry of Local Government.
That's good.
Yeah. So it will just be island some other
dignify the local chiefs.
Yes.
That tells them that they are in the full government.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be two different ministries.
Yeah, I mean that ministry came from Internal Affairs before. Was that? There was a way it was called local government.
That's the Ministry of Interior.
Yeah, Ministry.
Yeah,
Yes, I
because
think
remember
Ministry of
after the
Interior.
coup,
So
it had a
something.
name.
Yeah, Ministry of Interior.
Ministry of Interior.
Okay.
Ministry of Interior.
That's good.
Now it's going back to local government.
Okay.
It's just a nomenclature.
So, yeah.
Oscar.
Maybe
Yeah,
So you would just speak, then just give a wrap-up
Yes,
comment, then I will
that's
go
what
back to Tatos and Patrick to conclude and come to.
Thank you. So I appreciate the callers, that represent a segment of the population. I want to say out there that we should not believe this myth that's going around that the country is divided. I hear some media people even running with it that the country is divided. The president just won with 20,000+ votes. In a democracy, even if you win with one vote, you can have. This is not a one-party state. So obviously, some people will vote for this other side, and some people will vote for the other side. That's the beauty of democracy. But we have one country, and you can obviously see that the Liberian people are happy for the decision or the choice that they made by electing Joseph Boakai as the president. I think they can be rest assured that the government is going to live up to the expectations of the people, and the media will continue to hold the feet of the government to fight responsible media. That's what we are pushing for. Finally, I just want to say thank you to the team for the opportunity given. Disclaimer: I'm not an employee. I respect, the employees of ELBC. I heard one of the callers say thanks that his prayer has been answered. I'm not here yet. I'm calling on the president to please ensure that you can appoint or nominate heads of the
Leaders will
ELBC,
always say, I claim it.
ELBC, the Monrovia City Corporation, the Chief of Staff, the Ministry of Defense. These strategic areas. I think the president needs to kindly.
Thank
You got interest in those areas?
Thank you, Oscar.
All of the above.
Chris, follow that.
All of the above.
On 10 seconds.
Yeah, thank you so much, and I'm gratified, honored to have been invited. When I got a call up last evening, as a matter of fact, I got another version coming at 3:00. One of the panelists, Oscar, is here. We draw 2 from the United States and 1 member of the Congress or the Coalition for Democratic Change at 2:00 on State of the 3:00. Sorry, on State of the Nation this afternoon. And yes, so you guys are doing marvelously well here. And I saw the complex. It reminds me of the moment when we commissioned this building, but we didn't have the opportunity to enter it because there was change in government. And I attended the commissioning of the language radio. The folks did extremely well. That has even added to the work of the Liberia Broadcasting System. And yes, so once again, I'm always open for the invitation.
Okay. Tatas?
We just hope that President Boakai will live up to the expectation of his own message and that of the expectation of the Liberian people. And because governance is about taking positive action to better the life of the citizenry. Thank you.
Anthony.
Well, I mean, just to thank these great men at very short notice. I think a lot of them got their calls late last evening, but they made it a duty to come. A downside is that everybody here is bearded. I hope the next time we have a lady or two to join us. But I'd like to say thank you all. We'll be listening out to Crates' program this afternoon. And thank you also for ably handling the soundcraft and everything here. Thanks to those who call and those who also listen. We'll keep these discussions on as much as possible. We know that this government is a listening government, so we'll continue to. We will do it. We engage positively, but trust me, we'll engage on with the issue.
Thank you, Anthony Vowen, and of course, we also had with us as our panelist this morning, Christopher Saleh. That's Christopher Saleh, a former Deputy Director General for Rural Broadcasting here at the Liberia Broadcasting System. That was Tukpa of Media Aid, and Oscar Moba. They are all professional journalists in Liberia. We've been giving a post analysis on the President's State of the Nation address. That was on yesterday. Until tomorrow morning, Vavle Kamara says on this platform, my name is Melvin Stewart. Have a wonderful and a God bless Tuesday. Thanks to Damawa Fofana who has been on social media. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.